Hey, everybody, it's Anna. So, this is a spontaneous live stream. So, I don't know if anybody's going to join me or not. But if you do, let me know you're here and let me know if you can hear me, see me. Or you can obviously check in with me on the replay. But I just wanted to jump on because I just felt like I wanted to share something that just occurred to me. I guess it was last night because I had someone schedule an appointment with me, and then they canceled. I think they got nervous, so they canceled. But in the cancellation email, part of what they said they were looking for was coaching and counseling. And I don't know what that means for them, but anyway, they were just describing I'm looking for something else, which is fine. I said okay, and they went on. But when that came up, coaching and counseling, I remember that when I was kind of configuring what I was going to do with my business, initially I was looking at, hey, Jay the reader, where can we reschedule with you? You mean, tell me more about that. So anyway, when I was trying to configure my business, you had to come up with a description of what you were going to do, right? Like, what are you going to call yourself? What are you going to name what you do? And one thing that came up was coach. I really hated it. I hated it so much. And it was funny because I couldn't really put my finger on why I hated that title. I decided not to use it. But yesterday, when this person's telling me that they're looking for coaching, I realized what I'm reacting to. And that is, you don't need a coach. I don't think you need a coach. A coach is someone who has more experience, more expertise than you do to tell you how to do something well. I'm not saying coaches aren't valuable. They definitely are. But in what I'm doing, you don't need a coach. The challenge is not that you don't know how to live your life or you need an expert to tell you something. Really, it's what I offer is the support for you to surface your own wisdom. I have no idea what you're going to do. Let me tell you, my clients are constantly surprising me. I have no idea what they're going to do with their lives. I just have faith that they can figure it out, and I give them the tools and the support that I have to offer to get them to coach themselves, right? To encourage themselves. So the idea that I know more than somebody else, how their life path should work out, nonsense. I don't even know what's the right choice. Like, I have people come to me and they're in the middle of crises with a relationship, and I don't know what should happen, but I do know that if we can feel supported and loved in finding and examining gently where we're in pain, where we're stuck, where we're getting, conflicting messages. If we can sort that out in a very loving, gentle way and with support, like for me, for instance, then their message will get clear and they'll feel supported in deciding whether they're going to follow that, wisdom. Because really, that's the whole game, right? It's not that we don't know the message. Usually we do have a sense of guidance. It's whether we can trust it and whether we're ready to follow it. And that just requires support. That just requires love. It doesn't require me telling you anything. It requires me helping you kind of clear the brush out so that you can get the message from yourself. Okay, Jai, you said to schedule. Yeah. So I'll put it. I can put it in the comments, but you can always reach out to me at my email address, and that's usually in my YouTube page. But I'll get that to you. So that's one thing. Is I don't like the idea that I know better than somebody else. I do have access to some tools. And I also have a natural giftedness, right? So, which we all have in different ways, right? I do have things to offer. It's not like I don't have things to offer. It's just that I'm not the one going to give you instructions of what you do next, right? And I resist the idea that people want that from me. But secondly, counseling, right? I don't call myself a counselor. Well, I shouldn't, because counseling actually implies particular accreditation and particular schooling. And I don't have the credentialing of a counselor, right? But also, and if you need a counselor, great. I don't have any problem with that. But my general philosophy is there's counseling implies maybe there's some kind of dysfunction. Not always. I'm just giving you a general idea of my own engagement with the term. It is there are legal ramifications to calling yourself a counselor, but also I think there's kind of an implication that something's dysfunctional about us. And so we got to solve some kind of weirdness inside ourselves. Something's off. Dysfunction. Oh my gosh, dysfunction, dysfunction. You just hear it all the time. I would say what we're describing as dysfunction is actually just the challenge of a spirit and a human living in the same body. It's what it means to be a human being. Like you have a spiritual energy which doesn't understand, limitations or pain or, death, right? You have that. And then you have the human, which is very much a creature living on the planet, which has to contend with survival. And you've got them combined in the same experience, and they're trying to figure out how to do that, right? Which is not an accident. I think the combination of spirit and that alliance of spirit and flesh is where all the juice comes from. It's what we're here to do, right? But I think everything we call dysfunction is sort of a navigation of the combination of pain and a spirit that doesn't understand pain, a combination of aspirations and a human that doesn't understand the aspirations. Like we have all of this sort of miscommunication that we've inherited patterns, all of that. And we call it dysfunction as though, I think because dysfunction implies there's function, right? Like there's no human that doesn't do this. So like the idea that, well, some families are dysfunctional, like what are you talking about? I mean, is functional just like you're paying your bills and keeping your job? Okay, well, I guess that could be one version of functional, but like all of us are doing this. The reason we're here is to navigate this path. So the idea that there's something wrong with us, I'm not saying, I just think there's nothing wrong with it. This is the journey, right? Not to say there aren't wounds to be healed and things to be released and understandings. Absolutely. There's a lot of work. But the work is there not because it's trying to overcome a deficit, but because that's what we're here to do. And to me, that's it. That mindset shifts things for me. So when I work with a client, I don't go, oh yeah, they're quite dysfunctional. How can I get them functional? I think they're operating just fine. How can I help them operate better? How can they get closer to their calling? How can they get freed up from the static, which is distracting them or draining their energy? How can I help them do what they're here to do? Right? Assuming they're already doing it, because we're already doing it. This is the thing we're here to do. Right? We don't have to change a path. We're already on the path. We just want to be able to do it in a way that's loving, that's expansive, that hopefully we start not losing so much energy. But, we want to be respectful of the journey we're on and also respectful of our purpose in the journey, which I think is to walk in grace and walk in love. And we all know how to do that already. You don't need someone to tell you how to do that. I think sometimes we need help in clearing the way for us to do it ourselves. So, hi, Corey. Oh, guys, how much of the Jack you raised and how much of the live did I miss? I don't know. I've only been on here for a little bit. I was just going to make it quick. I just had a thought. So I was just going to make a quick observation. Dysfunctional means disrupting day-to-day functions, most importantly, sleep, eating. Okay. Cool. That's the idea of dysfunction. That's the definition of dysfunction. I would say even when people are getting all those basic needs met, we often still call them dysfunctional, right? If we have families where people aren't good at loving each other or if there's addictive patterns. So I'm saying that you can use that phrase in whatever way you want. And I think in our world, we use sometimes a lot of people use certain phrases to judge and categorize other people all the time. Like I've heard people constantly say, my family's dysfunctional, or I'm dysfunctional, or that's dysfunctional, or whatever. I'm saying everything, if you're going to call it dysfunctional, you can call anything dysfunctional if it doesn't match your expectations of what it should look like, right? So we're not just talking about surviving. That may be one definition of dysfunction that you're pulling on, which is fine. I'm saying if that's it, then that's a pretty low bar. Like if you can survive on the planet, you're functional, right? Most people survive on the planet on some way. Maybe they don't they don't survive it very gracefully or they survive with struggle. I mean, if you're alive, you've survived so far, right? So that if function's just about survival, most of us have achieved that, and those of us who don't are not on the planet for very long. But apart from that, I think dysfunction becomes a rubric we place upon others and on ourselves. And the implication is something is inherently wrong. It really is kind of the same concept you get with original sin from the like more strict or more traditional religious institutions, which say you're born broken. Now, there is some truth to that. I would say there's truth that we come into the world broken, but the brokenness is not an accident. It's not a judgment. It's not evidence that we're screwed up. The brokenness is where the magic happens. We agree, our souls, let's say our chaya, agree to come into the world broken so that we can do the work, the magic of the human and the spirit working together. And that is hard work. And it is not very pretty, and it gets pretty messy. And part of it is engaging with old patterns and helping to release old debts. And yeah, but I would say all of that is the work. It's not evidence that we've messed up or that we are failing somehow, that there's a better way, a functional way to do this. This is what it looks like to be human on the planet. It's human and spirit on the planet. So that's how I address my clients, right? I look at them as functioning in a quite lovely, powerful way. How can they do it? And that's part of the work, is to realize you're already doing really kind of amazing things that you're not seeing because there's this expectation kind of telling you you're doing something wrong, right? Like it's telling you you're dysfunctional. It's telling you that functional people do it this way or that way, or which really is kind of a societal expectation based on, I guess, societal values. Like if we want everybody to to be productive, that becomes a rubric that we use for functionality. If you want people to follow the rules, that becomes a rubric. If you want people to, I don't know, get A's in school, that becomes a rubric. So it's just so easy for the mind, for a linear mind that's sort of kind of into putting things in these systems, to say there's something wrong and dysfunctional about not following what I think the expectation should look like. So that would be my take on that. But anyway, hi FB. That's all I had to say today. Because I think it's important for me to be able to say out loud why I do what I do, why I don't do certain things. And also because I think that's a message that I want to bring to the world, that I really think everyone's deeply magical and actually deeply in their genius. A good portion of the problem is our minds aren't seeing it, because they're looking for something else. They're looking for something they've been told should be there, and it's not there. And so it's looking for what it thinks is wrong rather than acknowledging what is deeply gifted about what we are doing. And what's so much fun in my work with clients is that I get to help them see where they are deeply gifted. And I get to help their minds like wake up to how amazing they are, and how their calling on the planet is not to follow these other ideas of who they are, but to become more and more deeply themselves. That's really fun. It's really fun to help clear the path for that. And I really want to do that. I don't want to coach. I don't want to tell you what to do. I mean, I think I would have a panic attack if I had to tell somebody what to do. I just want to be part of the adventure of seeing how it works out. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for joining, those of you who came along. And if you check in later, and I will see you next time. Bye.